Hi everyone. In today's lab we will be doing the synthesis of aspirin. So we're going to be reacting salicylic acid with phosphoric acid and acetic anhydride, and this should yield aspirin as the result. Okay, so in order to start the synthesis for aspirin, we will be adding 2 grams of salicylic acid to an Erlenmeyer flask. Once you have the 2 grams of salicylic acid added, you are going to add about 5 milliliters of acetic anhydride. Once you get the 5 milliliters of acetic anhydride, and you want to swirl the flask to dissolve or thoroughly wet the crystals of salicylic acid. So you want to swirl this until the salicylic acid is all wet. Once the salicylic acid crystals are all wet, you want to add so you're going to add 5 drops of phosphoric acid. And then you're going to swirl the flask continuously for about 5 minutes. And then you're going to set up a warm water bath. So after you get the salicylic acid dissolved in the acetic anhydride, and you've added the phosphoric acid and swirled for 5 minutes, you want to add the reaction to a hot bath, and you want to heat the water on a hot plate to about 70 to 80 degrees Celsius. You're going to stir the liquid in the flask occasionally and keep the reaction mixture at this temperature for about 15 minutes. So once the reaction is done heating, you want to take it out. You want to take it off of the hot bath. And then very carefully you want to add 2 milliliters of DI water, drop by drop, and this is to quench any remaining acetic anhydride. If any vapors form, that vapor is acetic acid, so you don't want to be careful not to breathe that in. So like I said, right now we are getting rid of any remaining acetic anhydride. And then you want to swirl the flask to mix completely. And then you want to add 20 milliliters of water while still warm and swirl the flask to mix thoroughly. So now that we've added the 20 milliliters of water, we're going to swirl the flask, and then we're going to let it stand for a few minutes. And now we're going to let it stand for a few minutes. Okay, so once you've let it stand for a few minutes, you're going to put it in an ice bath, and you should start to see crystals form in a few minutes. And if you, to help initiate the crystal process, you might take a glass rod and kind of scratch it. You might do that every few minutes until crystals start to form. But until then, you're going to let it stand in the ice bath for a few minutes. So now that you have the aspirin crystals, you want to vacuum filter those through, and you want to rinse it with a couple milliliters of ice cold DI water, and you want to let those crystals completely dry. Okay, so once you've collected the remaining crystals in a beaker, you want to add we're going to recrystallize it now, so you want to add just enough 95% ethanol for it to dissolve. You want to gently warm this while in the process. So like I said, you want to add just enough 95% ethanol to get the crystals to dissolve. And then we're going to start the recrystallization process. So we're going to warm this up, and then we're going to cool it down to room temperature, and then put it on the ice for it to recrystallize. Okay, so once you've done the recrystallization, you put it on ice and recrystallize it. You want to recover the product via vacuum filtration. And then once you do it via vacuum filtration, you want to let it completely dry before you record the weight, and then do a % yield calculation of your product.